ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the series of terrorist attacks taking place in Sinai. And in light of these attacks, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with a lot of military leaders and representatives of political parties and public figures. And in his meeting, he pledged £10 billion to be allocated for developmental projects taking place in Sinai. Also, a lot of counter-terrorism campaigns taking place there. We're going to be talking more about this with our distinguished guests tonight. But before that, let's take a look and check out this report regarding President al-Sisi pledging billions to develop Sinai, and says that the country has a long battle with terrorism.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said 10 billion Egyptian pounds would be allocated to develop Sinai and launch industrial development projects and anti-terrorist campaign there. In a meeting with military leaders, representatives of political parties, as well as public figures, including religious and media ones, in addition to the Interior and Defense Ministers, Sisi said that no one would be able to harm Egypt, no matter how strong or organized. Sisi said a security fight against terrorism cannot be effective if it is not accompanied by a specific economic plan to develop Sinai. Addressing police and security personnel, he said, "You will take revenge for Egypt's martyrs, protect Egypt and die for it." And he called on the military personnel combating terrorists in Sinai to protect civilians while following criminals and militants. During the meeting, the Sisi addressed leaders of political parties and called on the necessity of forming a national alliance to support Egypt in its fight against terrorism. The president said the army and police would do everything possible and impossible to fight terrorism in the form of preventative counterattacks and drying up sources of funding for terrorists. The president spoke publicly for the first time about the recent shooting death of a female protester, calling her a martyr and his daughter, and offering condolences to her family and all Egyptians pained by her death. Sisi also urged Interior Minister Mohammed Ibrahim to uncover the truth behind Sabbah's death. Ibrahim has said he would personally hand over any policeman found to have been involved in the killing. Sisi said that Egyptian men and women as his own children. President Sisi and leaders of Egypt's mainstream political parties stressed in the meeting that the country's long-delayed parliamentary polls must go ahead as scheduled next March. After the meeting with President Sisi, leaders of the country's mainstream political parties stressed that the parliamentary election should be going ahead despite Sinai's terrorist attacks last week. In statements, the chairman of a number of political parties and media figures cited Sisi as arguing that the main goal of the terrorist attacks was to disrupt the country's elections, which form the last part of the roadmap for future. Anwar Sadat, chairman of the Liberal Reform and Development Party, quoted Sisi as stating that terrorist groups also aim to disrupt Egypt's economic conference scheduled next March. Sadat said he and other political leaders and public figures had asked Sisi to make sure that the war on terrorism would not infringe upon political rights and freedoms. They referred to the killing of socialist protester Shaima Sabbah during a peaceful demonstration. The meeting, held at Al-Jalaa Theatre in East Cairo's Heliopolis district, was attended by Hamdi Sabbahi, chairman of the leftist party, Egyptian Popular Parent and Sisi's challenger in last year's presidential elections, and Yunus Mahmoud, chairman of the Noor party. The Sisi's meeting was intended to inform the country's political elite about the terrorist attacks in Sinai and how the country should be intended to inform the political elite and stand a unified front against the new wave of terrorism.
A new Suez Canal. A national project. For fully financed and implemented by the Egyptians.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to this edition of the Daily Debate, and now we're going to be talking and focusing on the billions of pounds pledged to the development projects in Sinai as part of the anti-terrorism campaigns taking place in the peninsula. And joining us here in the studio to shed more light on this issue is Mr. Nawwara, head of the political bureau of the Muhafazin Party. Mr. Nawwara, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you,
Mr. Nawwara, now, during the meeting between President Sisi and the representatives of political parties and military figures and public figures, now he pledged that there will be around £10 billion for the developmental projects taking place in Sinai, saying that military campaigns are not the only solution to actually counter the terrorism taking place there. Do you feel that this means that there has been some sort of underachievement in terms of the campaigns militarily taking place there?
It's very difficult to have accurate information on this. I think that even the army itself, even U.S. Army, for example, facing Daesh or any army in the world facing an underground guerrilla warfare with ghost terrorists, it's difficult really to know the exact figures, the exact numbers, especially when there is also fluid inflow from neighboring countries. In the West you have extremists in Libya, or in the East you have also some terrorist, let's say violent groups in Gaza. And unfortunately some of these groups are hostile towards Egypt, and instead of in fact directing their operations against Israeli occupation, sometimes they aid and assist some of the terrorists in Sinai. So it is really difficult to say if there has been an underachievement. But what I can say is this: I think that for 3 years, let's say for 2 years, between 2011 and 2013, we saw the growth of extremist militant groups in Sinai, and every other day we were hearing of confiscating some shipments of arms, even like long-term missiles, if you remember.
Yes.
And as you know, the number of coat arms usually is like maybe 10 or 20%, so you can imagine what this 80 or 90% was going through. And Sinai has a very difficult terrain. It's enough to know, for example, there were over 2,000 tunnels under the homes of people, and so there are networks of movements under the homes of people, and the problem always facing an army or a formal military force trying to face this guerrilla fighters is the collateral damage it can cause if it follows indiscriminate targeting. Like, for example, what happens in Gaza, we always criticize, and the whole world criticizes Israel of this in order to maybe capture or target 5 or 10 militants. Israel causes death of hundreds of children and women and older people and so on. So I think that at this point we really need to support our troops, and giving this kind of judgments of achievement in military, I think it's difficult to make that judgment, and I don't think it's very productive also. I think what we can say is that I agree with you that military solution is not enough. However, if we talk about development, as you were mentioning, there is a minimum level of security and stability before development can take place. You cannot expect development agencies or companies or investors to go there when there is, for example, curfew at the moment. So it is a kind of, I think we need to also acknowledge the mistakes and errors during maybe more than 10 years, in the past 10 years, in dealing with Sinai people, again, indiscriminate detention of some people, and I think there was maltreatment, mistreatment of many of the people. So, and that's why these militant groups, they found a fertile land to recruit. So I'm not saying that all of the tribes, of course, most of the tribes are against these extremists, because we have seen how they beheading some of the local tribe people, saying that they were cooperating with the Egyptian army and so on. But let's face it, we have a difficult situation, and I think we need to have this minimum level of achieving security and stability on the ground, and then, of course, then we have to go ahead with heavy development efforts, and always try to keep in mind that the indigenous people, the people who live there, they have to feel the fruits of this development. We have seen, for example, in South Sinai, that many of the tribes there, they were complaining that most of the workers, most of the people who are even owning the resource, operating the resource, working with the resource, were coming from other parts of Egypt. So we need to have that balance. Of course, Egypt is Egypt, everybody is allowed to work anywhere. But there are always everywhere, there are some bylaws or local regulations to make sure that the inhabitants, the people who live there, are also touching the fruits of this development, are having jobs, are feeling that their lives is improving, because as you know, frustration and unemployment, it's a fertile land for these extremists.
Well, talking about having developmental projects taking place there as part of the solution, as you mentioned, there should be some sort of a minimum level of security and stability in the region to actually start developing and applying these projects on the ground. Now, do you feel that, because all Egyptians have been talking about development in Sinai, and it's a good thing, and we've been looking forward to having development projects taking place in Sinai. But now using this meeting as some sort of a starting point or a launching of an initiative to actually start these developmental projects, do you feel that it might be a little bit too soon? Do you think that these battlefields in North Sinai, where the terrorist attacks and the military campaigns are taking place, do you feel that this is something that will drag on for a while? Because when it first started, everyone was assuming that it will take a few